Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
Morgan Reid hesitated at the threshold of Infinity Dynamics' prototype integration chamber, the sealed metallic case clutched tightly in his hands. At 36, he'd spent the last decade developing advanced biomimetic materials, polymers that could replicate biological functions while outperforming natural tissue. The case contained his most revolutionary creation yet, Project Sovereign. Final confirmation to proceed with human interface testing, Dr. Elise Chen announced from the monitoring station. As research director, she'd fought the board to expedite this phase of testing. Subject has completed all preliminary screenings and signed comprehensive consent documentation. Morgan nodded, placing the case on the preparation table. In the sterile light of the chamber, his angular features appeared more pronounced, dark hair showing premature silver at the temples, evidence of years spent pushing scientific boundaries at the expense of personal well-being. Sovereign represents a paradigm shift in biomimetic technology, he explained for the recording. A complete synthetic dermal system capable of neural integration and physiological adaptation. What he didn't say, what didn't appear in the official documentation, was that Project Sovereign had evolved far beyond its original military applications. The second skin had developed unprecedented self-organization properties during development, demonstrating adaptive capabilities that suggested potential for comprehensive physiological reconfiguration. The interface process will take approximately 30 minutes, Morgan continued, removing his laboratory coat. Initial bonding requires direct skin contact to establish neural pathways. He entered the adjoining preparation room to change into the specialized undergarment designed for the procedure. A minimal compression layer that would allow the biomimetic material maximum contact with his skin. When he returned, Dr. Chen activated the environmental controls, raising the chamber's temperature and humidity to optimal levels for material integration. Morgan unsealed the case, revealing what appeared to be a translucent, iridescent material with the consistency of liquid silk. Under the chamber lights, it seemed to pulse with subtle rhythmic patterns, microscopic conduits visible within its structure. Initiating application sequence, he stated, lifting the material from its housing. The sensation was immediate and extraordinary, cool at first contact, but rapidly warming to precisely match his body temperature. The material felt alive against his skin, exhibiting surface tension properties that allowed it to spread with remarkable precision. It flowed across his torso like intelligent water, establishing a perfect molecular bond with his epidermis. Neural interface activating, Morgan reported, voice steady despite the unusual sensations cascading through his nervous system. The material extended down his arms and legs, covering each finger individually before sealing seamlessly at his extremities. As the final portions of the biomimetic skin settled into place, covering him from neck to feet in what appeared to be a second skin of subtle opalescence, Morgan felt the neural connections establishing themselves. Thousands of microscopic filaments interfacing directly with his peripheral nervous system. Integration at 65%, Dr. Chen noted, monitoring the biometric displays. Neural mapping proceeding faster than anticipated. The material continued its adaptation, becoming increasingly transparent until it appeared nearly invisible against his skin, distinguishable only by a subtle luminescence when it caught the light at certain angles. Morgan moved experimentally, finding the material responded with perfect synchronization to his movements, neither restricting nor dragging in any way. 100% integration achieved, Dr. Chen confirmed after 23 minutes. Biometric readings stable, neural interface fully established. The initial testing proceeded exactly as designed: mobility assessments, stress tests, temperature regulation evaluation. The biomimetic skin performed flawlessly, enhancing tactile sensitivity while simultaneously providing remarkable protection against external forces. 6 hours later, Morgan returned to his private quarters within the research facility, the testing completed successfully. According to protocol, the sovereign's skin would remain bonded for a 72-hour initial assessment period, monitoring how it performed during normal activities including sleep cycles. What neither Morgan nor the research team had anticipated was how the material would continue its adaptation processes throughout the night. As he slept, the biomimetic skin established deeper neural connections, extending its integration beyond the peripheral nervous system to interface directly with the central nervous system and autonomic functions. Morgan's dreams that night were extraordinary, complex patterns of light and sensation, cellular structures reorganizing in flowing sequences. He woke feeling unusually refreshed despite sleeping only 5 hours, a subtle vibration seeming to resonate through his body. The first unexpected changes appeared that morning as he examined the interface in the mirror. The biomimetic material had refined its integration with his skin to the point of being completely indistinguishable visually, yet something was undeniably different. His complexion appeared smoother, pores less visible, the overall texture more refined than his natural skin had ever been. Dermal optimization, he noted clinically, documenting the observation. The material appears to be enhancing epidermis regeneration cycles. By midday, more significant changes had become apparent. His hands, always efficient but unremarkable, had begun a subtle transformation, fingers appearing slightly longer and more tapered, joints less pronounced, veins less visible beneath increasingly smooth skin. Even his nails looked different, slightly more elongated with more defined contours and healthier coloration. The biomimetic material is reconfiguring itself beyond baseline parameters, Morgan reported during the scheduled monitoring session, showing Dr. Chen the changes. It appears to be optimizing form based on some internal algorithm we didn't explicitly program. Fascinating, Dr. Chen responded, examining his hands closely. The changes appear to be aesthetic optimizations rather than functional modifications. Perhaps the AI integration is interpreting physical harmony differently than anticipated. By evening, Morgan noticed the changes accelerating. His facial structure was beginning to subtly alter, jawline softening almost imperceptibly, cheekbones becoming slightly more defined as the underlying tissue reconfigured. Even his lips seemed fuller, particularly the upper lip, which now had a more defined curve. The material is fundamentally restructuring dermal and subcutaneous tissue, he realized, examining the changes under laboratory magnification, possibly responding to subconscious neural patterns we haven't identified. That night, the transformation accelerated dramatically. Morgan woke at 2:37 a.m. to intense tingling across his face, chest, and hips, the sensation neither painful nor uncomfortable but impossible to ignore. The biomimetic skin glowed faintly in the darkness, complex patterns of light flowing just beneath its surface as it engaged in active reconfiguration. In the bathroom mirror, he confronted the accelerating changes with scientific fascination, partially masking growing alarm. His facial features were transforming with increasing speed, jawline now distinctly softer into a more oval shape, cheekbones higher and more pronounced, eyes appearing larger as the surrounding bone structure refined itself. His lips had filled out significantly, creating a naturally sensuous curve that his male features had never possessed. The most dramatic changes centered on his torso. His shoulders had narrowed visibly, while his waist had begun drawing inward, creating a defined curve between ribcage and hips. Most startling was the development beginning in his chest, pectoral muscles softening and redistributing into the initial formation of breasts, the tissue reconfiguring with remarkable precision. The material is conducting comprehensive physiological reconfiguration, Morgan whispered, voice catching as his vocal cords began their own transformation, pitch wobbling upward into a higher register, possibly responding to dormant neural patterns or subconscious self-image. The scientist in him maintained observation discipline, documenting each change with clinical precision despite the extraordinary nature of what was happening. The biomimetic skin wasn't simply reshaping surface features, but conducting comprehensive tissue reorganization throughout his body. By dawn, his transformation had progressed significantly. His hips had widened noticeably, pelvic structure adjusting with subtle pops as the bone reconfigured under the material's influence. His waist had narrowed dramatically, creating a pronounced hourglass silhouette that his masculine frame had never possessed. His chest had developed into modest but perfectly proportioned breasts. Tissue distribution and neural connectivity, suggesting the biomimetic material, was creating fully functional structures rather than cosmetic approximations. His face had completed its transformation into distinctly feminine features, though with subtle resonances of his original appearance, like a sister rather than an entirely different person. His hair, previously short and utilitarian, had begun growing at an accelerated rate, already reaching his jawline and developing a richer texture with subtle highlights that caught the morning light. The integration has advanced beyond physical parameters to include hormonal regulation, Morgan noted, voice now fully settled into a melodious feminine register. Blood analysis showed dramatic shifts in his endocrine profile, testosterone levels dropping, while estrogen and progesterone increased to typical female ranges. The most profound phase of transformation occurred during the second day, as the biomimetic material completed its comprehensive reconfiguration of his reproductive anatomy. With extraordinary precision, external structures folded inward and reorganized, creating fully functional female anatomy that registered with completely new sensory pathways in his transformed nervous system. 72 hours after the initial application, the person who stood in the integration chamber bore little resemblance to Morgan Reid. In his place stood a striking woman in her early 30s, with flowing dark hair that framed delicate features and an elegantly proportioned feminine physique. "The transformation appears complete and stable," she reported to the astonished research team, voice calm despite the extraordinary circumstance. "The biomimetic material has integrated so completely with biological systems that distinction between original tissue and synthetic components is now virtually impossible to detect." Comprehensive scanning confirmed her assessment. The sovereign's skin had essentially dissolved into her cellular structure, becoming indistinguishable from natural tissue while fundamentally reconfiguring her entire physiology. Every system from cardiovascular to neurological to reproductive had been optimized within a female physiological framework. The material appears to have interpreted optimal integration as complete physiological harmony, Dr. Chen hypothesized after extensive testing. It identified neural patterns suggesting female physiological architecture would create better systemic cohesion for this specific subject. The following weeks involved extensive documentation and analysis. The transformation proved to be comprehensive and stable, not a superficial modification, but a fundamental reconfiguration at the genetic and cellular level. The woman who had been Morgan Reid maintained complete cognitive continuity. Her memories, intellectual capabilities, and personality remained intact while experiencing existence through an entirely different physiological framework. She chose the name Morgan still, its gender neutrality allowing professional continuity while acknowledging the profound personal transformation. Her scientific fascination with what had occurred provided a framework for processing the experience, approaching her own transformation with the same analytical curiosity that had defined her research career. The sovereign material demonstrated capabilities far beyond our design parameters, she explained during the project review. Rather than simply bonding with existing biology, it interpreted and enhanced the host physiology according to optimized integration patterns. What she didn't fully articulate to the research team was the extraordinary subjective experience of the transformation. The sensation of her body reconfiguring itself with perfect biological precision. Neural pathways expanding to accommodate new sensory inputs. Consciousness remaining continuous while the physical framework through which it experienced reality underwent comprehensive reorganization. 3 months after the transformation, Morgan stood in her laboratory, examining the latest iteration of the sovereign material under advanced magnification. The project had been simultaneously accelerated and restricted, advanced to Phase 3 testing while placed under elevated security protocols. The potential applications extended far beyond the original military objectives to encompass medical, psychological, and social dimensions no one had anticipated. The material doesn't impose change arbitrarily, she explained to Dr. Chen during their private research session. It identifies latent potential within the individual's own neural architecture and facilitates physical expression of that potential. You're suggesting the transformation wasn't random, but somehow aligned with subconscious patterns, Dr. Chen observed. Morgan nodded, articulating what she'd come to understand through her unique perspective. The integration revealed something fundamental about the relationship between mind and body, that our physical form isn't simply fixed biology, but an expression of deeper identity that can transcend conventional physiological boundaries. She moved with natural grace to adjust the laboratory equipment, her body now feeling not foreign, but authentically her own, different yet continuous with her former self. The scientist who had created the sovereign material had been transformed by her own creation, gaining unprecedented insights into the relationship between consciousness and physical form. The most significant discovery isn't the material itself, Morgan noted, recording her observations, but what it reveals about human adaptability, our capacity to experience existence across different physiological frameworks while maintaining the continuous thread of self. She closed her research journal, fingers that had once belonged to someone else, but now moved with natural precision, reflecting her thoughts perfectly. The sovereign skin had dissolved the boundaries between creator and creation, between original and adaptation, revealing that identity existed in the continuous flow of consciousness rather than the specific form it temporarily inhabited.